I found out I was pregnant with my boss's child, and now I'm going to be his wife. At that moment, something inside me broke. Freja, my husband's mistress, had been making fun of me, showing off her youth and acting like she was better than me. She even took my job as the president's secretary, and now she wants my husband too. I decided I wouldn't let her get away with it anymore. I was determined to bring both of them down. So, I decided to confront Eric and Freja. I signed the divorce papers Eric gave me, but I made sure to get a lot of money in the settlement. They got married in Italy with a big, fancy wedding. But a week later, everything started to change. I got a call from Freja. She sounded panicked and said, "Hey, Eric hasn't come home. As his ex-wife, you must know where he is, right?" I laughed to myself because I knew this was coming. I stayed silent for a moment, then I revealed all of Eric's terrible secrets. My name is Astrid, and I'm a 58-year-old working housewife. I used to work as the president's secretary at my husband Eric's company. Every day, I woke up at 6 a.m., earlier than Eric, to make breakfast. Then, I went to work, cleaning and tidying up the president's office, making sure everything was perfect for Eric. He would come in at 8 a.m. and say, "Thank you, Astrid, you cleaned again today." I would smile and adjust his tie, saying, "It's fine, dear. You want to work in a clean room, right?" He would agree and smile back at me. Eric and I got married through an introduction by a mutual friend. We never had children, but we lived together, supporting each other. This year marked our 30th wedding anniversary. Eric took over the company from his father-in-law, and everything seemed stable. I had no complaints about our life. One day, Eric told me that a new business plan I had come up with was going to be funded by Henrik, his brother and the chairman of the company. Eric was happy about it and said my negotiation skills had helped a lot. I casually asked about another business plan Henrik had funded before, and Eric seemed annoyed, saying he would handle it. Then, Eric mentioned he had someone to introduce to me. I felt uneasy about it. Soon, I heard laughter from the hallway. Eric came in with a young woman. She had long, neatly arranged hair and wore a miniskirt and a low-cut top that made her look ready for a night out. She introduced herself as Freja, and Eric said she would be working there from now on. I was shocked by how young and confident she was. "Nice to meet you, Freja," I said, trying to hide my surprise and discomfort. But deep down, I knew things were about to get complicated. I was shocked. Is this some kind of joke? My husband introducing a young woman to me? This alone was a lot to take in, and on top of that, we don't hire fresh graduates. I managed to ask, "Excuse me, but how old is Freja?" "She's 23, Eric replied. "I met her at a bar with friends. We hit it off. She's young and fresh and gives me energy. Don't you think she'll boost the morale of our employees?" I realized he was serious, and I couldn't say anything in front of his beaming face. Then he said, "Astrid, please teach Freja the ropes. Freja is going to work as a general employee, right? Wouldn't it be better if—" "Oh, I forgot to say," Eric interrupted. "We're going to have 2 secretaries now. So, please teach Freja the secretary work." 2 secretaries? Is that necessary? Well, you're getting on in years. It's okay to pass on work to the younger ones. Eric laughed lightly, which hurt my heart. "The way you say it," I muttered, feeling the sting of his words. "Then take care. I'm going out for a bit on a personal errand. I'm counting on you to show her the ropes." With that, Eric left, and it was just Freja and me in the president's office. I took a deep breath to calm myself. Once Eric decides on something, he tends to rush into it and regret it later. This has happened often throughout our marriage. It's pointless to argue right now, so I decided to just follow his instructions. "Hey, Astrid," Freja tapped my shoulder. "Yes." "How old are you, Astrid?" she asked. Since I had asked her age, It felt wrong not to answer. I'll be 58 this year, I replied truthfully, hoping to connect with her on some level. But my sincerity didn't seem to reach her. What? You're as old as my grandmother. Poor thing, you could die any time and yet you still work. That's kind of sad, she said with a dismissive tone. I forced a smile. I like my job. It's not sad. I see. The sad one is the boss, right? Whether he's at home or at work, he's always with an old woman. Really poor thing, she continued. With each word, my face grew more strained. What exactly are you trying to say? I asked, my patience wearing thin. You don't get it? I guess when you get older, your brain starts to slow down, she laughed. Then, with a big sigh, she said, being young and beautiful, I have a higher status than an old lady like you. You understand, right? Her smile was full of confidence, and I shivered. I couldn't stay silent any longer. You should learn some common sense. Did I make you angry? Is it menopause? She mocked. See, you get angry so quickly. It must be hard to keep working if you get upset over such things. Plus, with menopause, you sweat a lot and get short of breath, right? It's embarrassing to try so hard. Maybe it's time for you to retire. As I stood there, dumbfounded, Freja laughed and whispered in my ear, why don't you retire as the president's wife too? I shuddered. This person intended to take Eric away from me. I couldn't help but raise my voice. Enough is enough. With that kind of intention, I can't teach you anything. Leave the company right now. I expected a quarrel, but instead, Freja looked at me with tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get along with you, Astrid, and made a joke. But it was too much. Freja collapsed to the floor, sobbing like a tragic heroine. I'll leave this company. Thank you for everything, she cried before running out of the room. I was overwhelmed and stood there, dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. Moments later, Freja returned with a red-faced Eric in tow. What are you doing? He yelled, making me tremble. What's wrong, dear? I asked. I heard from Freja that you yelled at her, he said. It's because she said something terrible. I tried to explain. Don't lie. I've been listening to your conversation, Eric shouted. Freja had recorded our argument on her mobile phone, starting from the moment I scolded her. The recording made it seem like I suddenly blamed her without reason, causing her to cry and apologize sincerely. I bit my lip in frustration. You don't believe me? Believe you? Freja came to me crying about what you did. There's a recording. It's clear whose words have more credibility. A secretary who bullies employees is fired as of today. I couldn't believe it. I had always supported Eric both at home and at work, and now he was abandoning me for Freja, who had just joined the company. Wait, then who will do the secretary's job? It's decided. Freja will do it. That's impossible. And what about you? I tried to hint at Eric's personal issues that only we knew about. I'll handle that myself. I prefer pure and cute Freja over you, who lies to me, the president. Besides, a young and beautiful girl like her suits me better than you do, don't you think? Eric narrowed his eyes happily and looked at Freja, who flashed a brilliant smile and stuck out her tongue at me. I protested to Eric many times, but he wouldn't listen. I insisted that the job of a secretary was not easy and that Freja couldn't handle it, but he dismissed my concerns as exaggerations. He seemed to think he was a knight protecting his princess. I was speechless at his foolishness, hardly what you'd expect from someone running a company. Eventually, Eric threw out my personal items from my workspace and arranged a brand new desk and cute stationery for Freja. Realizing my efforts were in vain, I decided not to waste any more energy and left the company. However, Eric didn't come home that night. He didn't return my calls either. I thought it was just his way of getting back at me, But as weeks and then months passed, I grew anxious. One day, I was called to the company by Eric and headed to the president's office. Maybe he had finally understood how hard the secretary's job was and decided to let Freja go and call me back. I knocked on the president's office door with a sliver of hope. "Come in," Eric's voice called out. As I opened the door, I was met with an unbelievable scene. Eric, smiling happily, was holding hands with Freja beside him. The two of them looked at me and laughed joyously. "It's been a while, Astrid. We have some big news today," Eric announced. "What is it?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Actually, Eric began, but Freja put her hand over his mouth. "Let me say it, okay? I want to thank the wife properly," Freja said with a beaming smile. Eric nodded deeply, and Freja turned to me. "We're getting married. Thank you for everything you've done for Eric." "What?" I could barely speak as my whole body trembled. Eric laughed sheepishly. "No point in hiding it anymore. I'm thinking of starting a second life. You're getting too old, Astrid. It's better for you to live quietly by yourself." "How dare you?" I felt as if the blood had drained from my body. "Wait a minute, Astrid. The talk isn't over yet. Here, a present," Eric said, and Freja handed me a few sheets of paper. They were printed with black and white photos. Seeing them, I felt sick. "This ultrasound, don't tell me." Freja nodded slowly and gently stroked her belly as she came closer and whispered in my ear, "I got pregnant with Eric's child. I'll be taking over as the president's wife." She laughed mockingly. At that moment, something inside me snapped. Freja had mocked me, flaunted her youth, and tried to assert her superiority at every turn. She even took my job as the president's secretary, and now she was aiming for Eric. Well, I wouldn't hold back anymore. I'd make sure they both plummeted to the depths of hell. I decided to face Eric and Freja head-on. I signed the divorce papers that Eric handed to me, but I made sure to receive a hefty compensation. They had a grand wedding in Italy, but things changed a week later. I got a call from Freja. "Hey, Eric hasn't come home. As his ex-wife, you must know where he is, right?" Freja's voice was frantic. I laughed maliciously. Just as I expected. I kept quiet, but Eric is, well, I can tell you his secret. "What's secret?" Freja asked. "Eric has a favorite hobby. He's probably in Vegas right now," I said nonchalantly. "Vegas? Ever heard of it? There's this big hotel in Las Vegas with a casino. Eric always rushes there whenever he has a chance," I explained. "Does that mean?" "Yes, Eric is probably indulging in gambling right now. I was the one who carefully scheduled his time to prevent him from getting too involved. It seems the new secretary was kept in the dark. He didn't want to show his bad side, spending the money he earned on gambling." Freja was silent, seemingly in shock. I let out a small laugh. "I'm actually thankful to you." "What do you mean?" Freja demanded. "Eric started getting into gambling these past few years. It seems someone from a new business partner invited him. Before you came along, there was still a bit of affection left in Eric. I was worried about him falling deeper, but now I've completely cut him off. Taking such a low man off my hands and even giving me a hefty compensation? There couldn't have been a better opportunity. Thanks to you, I can enjoy my second life." I laughed heartily. I could hear Freja breathing heavily over the phone. "Don't you dare joke about this, getting all high and mighty. Goodbye. You have a tough road ahead as the president's wife," I said sarcastically and hung up on Freja, ignoring her shouting from the other end. A few days later, as I was relaxing in my new condo, the doorbell rang. Could it be a delivery? I hadn't ordered anything suspicious. I looked through the peephole and saw my ex-husband, Eric, his face red with anger. "You're there, aren't you, Astrid? How dare you tell Freja about the gambling?" "Ah, the gambling." Understanding the situation, I decided to let Eric in. He must have hired a detective to find my address. Running away now would only lead to him chasing me again. I might as well settle things here. I had important information to share with him, I thought as I prepared the documents in a clear file before opening the door. When I opened it, I greeted Eric with a graceful smile. It's been a while, hasn't it? What do you mean, it's been a while? After you ruined my family, how can you still smile? Eric was furious, shouting and trying to intimidate me. But after so many years as his wife, such tactics didn't work on me. Oh my, why are you so red-faced? What happened? I asked, chuckling. I could see through his anger and sense the underlying issues between him and Freja. You must have had a fight with your wife, I said. Shut up, Eric snapped. Freja must be unhappy with most of your income going to gambling. She told you she would manage the finances and put you on an allowance now, right? I said, watching his reaction. Eric froze in shock. How? How do you know that? Did you plant a bug or something? He asked seriously, which made me burst into laughter. You did the same thing with me when your gambling came to light. You said, "What's wrong with spending the money I earned on my hobby?" You must have repeated the same with Freja, leading to a fight, and now you're taking it out on me. I explained. Eric clenched his fists and fell silent. Don't underestimate a wife of 30 years, I thought to myself, seeing his frustrated face. You should be thankful I managed your schedule as your secretary. I minimized your gambling time to save you from ruin. Can a naive 23-year-old do that? I asked. Well, that's... Eric stammered. You have no choice but to let her try. You're having a child after all, I said. At that word, Eric's face lit up. Yes, Freja and I are having a child. Unlike you, who's infertile, she can give me an heir. You lost as a woman, he said triumphantly. That's great for you. We're happy, I replied, trying to maintain my composure. Don't try to ruin my family again. I came here to warn you today. Eric pointed at me. I tilted my head, puzzled. Me ruin it? I have no such intention. In fact, I'm thinking of helping you. Help me. Eric looked perplexed, clearly at a loss. Did you go with Freja to the gynecologist? I asked. Huh? That place is for women. Freja said she wanted to go alone, so I didn't accompany her. Eric replied. You saw the ultrasound photo, right? The glossy, thick paper. I asked. No, the one I saw was just thin, regular paper, he said. I thought so, I said, presenting Eric with several photos I had pulled from the clear file. They were grainy black and white ultrasound images of a baby. Eric's eyes widened. What? You're pregnant? He asked incredulously. Of course not. This was a gift from Freja. She's quite prepared, isn't she? Printing these out from the internet for me, I explained. Internet. Eric looked puzzled. I handed him a piece of paper, a printout of a blog post from 2 years ago. The post was a pregnancy announcement with ultrasound photos. Compare this with the earlier photo. Notice anything? After looking back and forth between the photo and the article, Eric's face turned pale. You don't mean? That's right. I matched the copied photo from the article with Freja's ultrasound photo. Holding them up to the light, the baby silhouette in the noise matched perfectly. Do you know about image search? It's a feature that searches the internet for images similar to the one you have. I found this blog using it. She must have copied the article directly, cutting out the photo neatly, I said. So the child. Eric went pale, looking like he might collapse. I decided it was time to deliver the final blow. It's a lie. There's no one in her belly, I said. Eric collapsed to his knees. No, that can't be. She wouldn't lie about something like that. Impossible. After everything I bought for her, designer clothes, bags, even an expensive engagement ring, Eric vented his confused emotions by repeatedly hitting the floor with his fist. His actions were so ridiculous I couldn't help but smile. It's a shame you couldn't become a father. When you think about it, considering your age, it's doubtful you could have fathered a child. Thinking a young partner would guarantee a child was naive. Ask Freja for the truth. I'll call her over now, I said. Eric was too drained to argue. He just slumped there, silent. I had Freja come to the condominium soon after. When the doorbell rang, I opened the door. Upon seeing me with Eric, she screamed. "What are you doing here?" "Trying to take Eric back from me," she yelled. "No," I said calmly. "Didn't I say, and overseeing the finances to ensure you wouldn't ruin the company. I've been watching your every move. Freja, you must understand now that there's no future with this man. He's not just a gambler but a fraud who has been embezzling company funds." Freja looked shocked, her grip on Eric loosening. "You're lying. Eric isn't like that," she shouted, but her voice wavered with uncertainty. Eric, visibly defeated, turned to Freja. "It's true, Freja. I thought I could manage it all, but I kept getting deeper into the mess. The gambling, the embezzlement. I did it all, hoping for a big break, but it never came." Tears streamed down Freja's face. No, this can't be happening. I thought we'd be happy." Eric sighed, slumping down on the sofa. "I wanted to give you everything, but I'm a failure. I couldn't even keep up the lie about the pregnancy. Astrid, you're right. I'm done." I looked at him, feeling a mix of anger and pity. "It's over, Eric. You need to face the consequences of your actions. And Freja, if you're smart, you'll leave now and start a new life." Freja stood there, trembling, before turning on her heel and running out the door without another word. Eric didn't move, staring blankly ahead. "Henrik is ready to take over the company fully. He's going to clean up the mess you made and ensure the employees are taken care of. As for you, Eric, you'll be hearing from the authorities soon. Embezzlement is a serious crime, and you won't be able to talk your way out of this one." Eric nodded numbly. "I know. I deserve it." I walked to the door, pausing to look back at the man I had once loved. "Goodbye, Eric. I hope you find some way to redeem yourself in the future, but I won't be a part of it anymore." Leaving the condominium, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The chapter with Eric was finally closed, and I could now move on to a new life, free from his deceit and betrayal. I took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever came next. My second life indeed took a positive turn as I continued to work with Henrik. His respect and admiration for my capabilities made our partnership strong. We navigated through the challenges of rebuilding the company's reputation, gaining the trust of our clients, and ensuring the smooth operation of our business. Henrik and I often spent long hours working together, discussing strategies, and making crucial decisions. His calm demeanor and thoughtful insights were refreshing, and I found myself increasingly drawn to his integrity and kindness. Unlike Eric, Henrik valued my experience and treated me as an equal partner. One evening, after a particularly successful meeting with a potential client, Henrik and I decided to celebrate our progress. We chose a quiet, elegant restaurant where we could relax and enjoy a meal without the pressures of work. "To our partnership," Henrik said, raising his glass. "To our partnership," I echoed, clinking my glass with his. As we enjoyed our dinner, Henrik shared stories from his past, his ambitions for the future, and his personal values. I found myself opening up as well, talking about my dreams and how I envision the company's future. "Astrid," Henrik said, his tone serious yet warm, "I must admit, I've come to rely on you not just as a colleague but as a friend. Your strength and resilience are truly inspiring." I felt a blush creep up my cheeks. "Thank you, Henrik. Your support has been invaluable to me. I couldn't have asked for a better partner." The evening ended on a high note, and as we parted ways, I felt a sense of contentment and optimism about the future. Months passed, and the company steadily regained its footing. Our efforts paid off as we secured new contracts and re-established relationships with former clients. Henrik and I continued to work closely, our bond growing stronger with each passing day. One day, as we wrapped up a meeting in his office, Henrik turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Astrid, there's something I've been meaning to ask you." Curious, I nodded for him to continue. "Would you consider having dinner with me? Not as business partners, but as friends?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I smiled, feeling a flutter of excitement. "I'd love that, Henrik." Our dinner that evening marked the beginning of a new chapter in our relationship. We enjoyed each other's company, talked about our lives outside of work, and discovered shared interests and passions. Henrik's sincerity and kindness touched me deeply, and I realized that my feelings for him had grown beyond mere admiration. As time went on, our bond grew stronger, both personally and professionally. Henrik's unwavering support and the warmth of his friendship brought a sense of joy and fulfillment I hadn't felt in years. I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Looking back, I felt grateful for the twists and turns that led me to this point. Eric and Freja's deceit had been painful, but it had also paved the way for a new beginning. With Henrik by my side, I was ready to embrace the future and all the possibilities it held. My second life, filled with purpose, friendship, and the promise of something more, was indeed going to be enjoyable.